lot of people going into aged care, the home they usually, like these days, most people going to aged care own their home with no mortgage. For a lot of people, that's really their main asset. They don't necessarily have a huge amount of money aside from that home. I imagine this is a big point of stress is, do I have to sell my home? Are they going to take my home? Can I keep it? I know some people, sometimes that elderly person going into aged care is thinking, oh, maybe I'll be able to move back home after a year or two. So what happens there? Do people, are they forced to sell their home? Can they keep it? And how does Centrelink treat that?
You're never forced to sell the family home, but an advisor will model a multiple of scenarios, and one of them will be, well, if the family home is sold, how would that impact, I suppose, long-term aged care costs for mum or dad? It is a difficult one because to keep the family home, there's a lot of
Welcome back to the Winner's Playbook. I'm Billy, and today I'm joined by Daniel McCarthy from Sky Advisors in Tasmania. Dan works with a lot of retirees and families, and a big part of his work is helping people navigate aged care without burning through savings or losing sleep. We are talking real costs, Centrelink rules, and how to make good decisions under pressure. And because it's nearly Christmas, we're also kicking off a pro bono giveaway where someone who really needs financial advice can get it for free. I'll explain how that works a little bit later in the episode. Dan, welcome to the podcast. How are you going?
Yeah, good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, great to have you on. And Dan, I just wanted to ask you quickly, because I know that you flew up to Melbourne to see Metallica a couple of weeks ago, which I actually tried to get a ticket, and I had 4 tickets booked in general admin. And then when I went to click submit, it said like I was trying to log in from a suspicious device or something, then it kicked me out of the system. So I was actually planning to go. And couldn't get tickets, so I'm a bit jealous. How was it?
It was fantastic. I was very lucky, actually. I got my ticket because a mate of mine had a spare ticket when one of his family members dropped out and said, oh, do you want it? I said, yes, I'll take that. It was a bucket list opportunity for me to tick off. So, yeah, it was really amazing.
Awesome. And how much of an old school fan are you? Like, when did you start listening to him?
I'm a bit of a late adopter. I didn't listen to him growing up in school or anything like that. I think my music taste probably reverted back to more older stuff, getting frustrated and sick of the newer sort of music we find these days. So listening to a lot of that older sort of stuff, Guns N' Roses, Elton John, a real mix of the older 80s, 90s sort of music. So
awesome.
Yeah,
I'm similar. I got into them sort of in high school, which for me was late 90s, but I was obsessed with all their older albums, all the stuff they did in the 80s.
Yep.
Yeah,
a lot of great.
I'm going to see Tool next. I got into Metallica and some other bands, and then I went deep into the heavy metal rabbit hole after that. So I'm going to see a couple of metal bands soon. So
fantastic! Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, but they're all getting old now. So you go to those gigs. If you went to those shows 20, 25 years ago,
yep,
it was like younger people.
Yep.
You go to them now, and for some reason in your mind you think it's going to be all these young people, and you get there, you're like, oh, everyone's in their 40s and 50s and beyond.
Everyone's our age, if not older. It's funny you say that. My mate said he's been to see Metallica before, and they sounded just the same. So they sound just as good, really great. It's probably not the same sort of case for Guns N' Roses these days. I heard Axl Rose might sound a little bit different these days than what he used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes, maybe it's time for retirement for some of these guys, but Metallica seem like they're still going strong.
It's a big cash cow still, I think.
That's it. All right. Well, speaking about retirement, Our topic today, it's an interesting one, aged care, because a lot of like financial advisors can cover aged care and what they do, but there's so much complexity in there. A lot of advisors don't have deep knowledge on this stuff because it's not necessarily a topic we have to dive into in detail on a regular basis. But there are plenty of advisors out there who do deal with it regularly, and I believe you're one of them. That's why we decided to talk about aged care. So, but before we get into it, maybe tell us like where are you based? Like where in Tassie are you based, and what sort of clients do you help with when it comes to aged care?
Yeah, okay. So I'm based in Southern Tas, not far out of Hobart. So we're in Moona, which is the western suburbs. We started dealing with aged care because a lot of our existing clientele were starting to ask those relevant questions about what do I do with mum or dad, and they've had a fall at home. We need to get them into aged care. Can you assist with that sort of thing? And we were happy to sort of dive into those areas and help them out. But as we got into it for the first time, it was really a bit of a shock, and the sort of support we're getting from just like a licensee level compared to going to experts like aged care steps. They really opened our eyes and helped us with our sort of accreditation. And we still use them to this day to really help support us with that advice. But most of the clients we're dealing with are existing clients trying to help a loved one. But we have started to offer our support directly to aged care homes locally as well, building a network of client liaison officers in each of those homes to us and sort of highlighting that we can support people heading into aged care and helping them make those decisions. And that's been a really great relationship, helping them out, and then having those clients come to us as well.
Yeah, awesome. And what's like, why is it so complex? Like, what aspect of this do you find is most complicated that people really struggle with?
Yeah, I feel like it is something that you never encounter in another part of your life. So, and it takes into account, and the stress of selling a house one day, the stress of dealing with Centrelink, the stress of caring for a loved one, making sure all the estate plan is in place so you can actually legally act for them as well. And it all is in the head of a storm, if you like, and all those
Mm.
things happening at once. Um, and and there's so many emotions that you deal with as well. Sometimes there's guilt, I know I should have done something sooner. There's confusion with how Centrelink's going to treat, mum or dad or a loved one, and heading into aged care. I've had people say to me before, Centrelink's going to take the family home. They're going to take that and they're going to be left with nothing. They're going to take all their age pension. It's not the case at all. They're assets and income sources that will be assessed to work out their means and care needs. But an aged care home or Centrelink's never going to take these assets off people. So I
Mm.
think there's a lot of confusion and panic that comes around with aged care. And I think there's some of the myths that we can sort of hopefully help people with and show them that we can support them through the process. And more often than not, people come out the other side feeling really relieved. Even after an initial meeting, they can leave going, "Oh, I've got the right person helping me out here, and they're going to see me through it." Even though they've
Mm.
received nothing yet, they feel a lot more. A weight's been lifted off their shoulders, if you like.
Yeah, sure. So it's like anything in life, it's the uncertainty,
Exactly.
particularly if you're dealing with someone who, if like someone's in their 70s, 80s, 90s even, and they probably haven't had to deal with a lot of change, like they've been in the same house for a long time.
Yep.
And in many cases, they've got their payment coming in from Centrelink each fortnight, and all of a sudden it's all gonna be turned on its head.
Yeah, but to another level, imagine if you're, dealing with your own life and your own financial sort of struggles, but then all of a sudden mum or dad's had a fall and you've got to start to learn about their financial position and their outcomes and everything. That's another element in itself, and if they are not there and they're not cognitive to be able to help you and give you an understanding of that, you're jumping in right now to go, all right, I've got to try to find the best aged care facility or the best support for them, and going forward. So that can be really confronting as well.
Yeah, that's tough. So, this brings us to the next point. For a lot of people, they don't start thinking about aged care until it's like critical, right?
Yeah.
Like mum or dad needs to go in as soon as possible, and then they're trying to figure it out in a bit of a panic. So when should that conversation start around aged care within a family?
Yeah. In an ideal world, we would have a plan in place. We know when mum and dad would enter aged care in the future and everyone would be happy, but it never works out that way. Best intentions. Um, what we do say to people is if those concerns start coming up, and they start talking about their parents, hey, I want to start doing this, having those conversations, at least conversations as a family network, um, as early as possible. And when we talk about estate planning, you say, oh, and heaven forbid, I want to be cremated one day. We write down our wishes for our loved ones. The same thing can be done for aged care as well. And we can start talking about, all right, well, this is what I want to happen with the family home. I want it to be sold. I want it to be rented. I don't want it to be rented or sold. I want it to be retained for this purpose. Having a conversation with your family so they can be more prepared when that time comes, and feel more comfortable in the decisions they're going to make, because these are major financial decisions you're going to make on behalf of mum, dad, or a loved one. And it can remove a lot of the panic out of those sort of situations too. Same thing can happen, even when you're writing your estate planning, and when you start talking about, hey, we're going to put a power of attorney in place. I think this person's going to be the best person to act for us. Start having those conversations, then involve your solicitor as well, because, that's a really good time to talk about how that's going to be treated.
Yes, because you often see amongst siblings, this causes issues as well, right? Because it's mum or dad is in this situation. There might be 3 or 4 kids, and then it's, yeah, who's doing what? How come they're doing it? How come I am? Or how come I have to deal with this? And
Yep.
so if that's all made clear before the fact, that makes it a bit easier, right?
Definitely. It removes that confusion. It removes the guilt. It removes siblings thinking there's a bit of greed setting in as well. Yeah, it can really remove a lot of those sort of things. And aged care can sometimes even involve, mum and dad moving in with one of the children. And that could be a really good way to, I suppose, prolong mum or dad moving into residential aged care. But then there's other siblings that may say, well, what are you paying towards this and what are you getting out of this? So I think to have those conversations early as possible is really great.
Okay, and so this is probably what a lot of people want to know about, the dollars. 'Cause, I can see there's some changes that just came in as well, or about to come in, or already came in.
No, they're already in place now at the start of November. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's changed. So yeah, this has changed a few times, right? The government changes the rules once they realise they want more funding in the system. So there's all these different types of fees, and this is where a lot of the complexity is. Even as advisors, if we don't deal with it all the time, we actually have to do quite a bit of research to understand all the costs and how they work. Can you break that down for us in simple terms? What sort of costs are involved and how do they work?
Yeah, of course. In in plain English, I suppose there are a number of fees involved. One of the fees that every person going into aged care will pay, regardless of their circumstances, is the basic daily care fee, and that is still calculated the same way as it used to be prior to the 1st of November when the rules changed. So that's effectively 85% of the full rate of a single rate of age pension. That goes towards the aged care home to cover costs to feed, and provide care, power, all those sort of incidental costs that you might incur if you were living in your own family home, rates, power, water, for example. So that's the first fee involved. Then there is a number of other fees that creep in. One of them is the cost to provide that care. So, you're either going to buy your room in an aged care facility, or you're going to rent that room like you would in the normal world. That bond you might pay to buy your room prior to the 1st of November was fully refundable. Now it's a partially refundable bond. And we can, if we had a bit more time, we'll be able to go into the breakdown of how that's partially refundable. But, and to speak to a financial advisor about the impacts on that, pardon me, is definitely worthwhile. So when you look at it in a care perspective, that bond is still worth, in a lot of cases going ahead with, but everyone's circumstances are different, and some people can't afford to pay a bond straight up front. So every aged care facility has a different rate of bond amounts, room types, if you like. So everyone's case is going to be different.
Okay, and if someone, just on the bond, if someone doesn't have a lot of money, do they have to pay a bond?
No one has to pay a bond because, once again, everyone's circumstances are different. If you pay a bond, you don't have to pay a daily accommodation payment or contribution, and it's two different sort of terms because you'll be either assessed as a normal resident heading into aged care or a low means resident heading into aged care. And based on that determination by Services Australia, it will say which one you're entering as, and then the bond amounts change and the ongoing contributions change as well. So if you enter as low means and you can't afford to pay the room cost, you can pay a partial amount of that to reduce the ongoing costs that's going to be applied to you.
So you got your basic daily fee, which is essentially 85% of the age pension payment. So if someone's on full age pension, it just means they're sending most of that income to the aged care home.
That's right.
And then you've got a bond, a big bond that you pay up front, but that's optional.
Yep.
And then if you're low means, i.e. you don't have a whole lot of money, then you won't be paying a bond, but you'll still get into the aged care home.
That's right. If you're very low means, you may enter aged care without having to pay a bond as well. If you're in between low means and at normal rate, you'll still be calculated a low means accommodation contribution, which you can either pay as a bond or pay as an ongoing payment. That amount is worked out by Services Australia and determined there. And then you have the choice to pay that in full or pay that ongoing contribution payment.
That sounds complicated, Dan.
Yeah. Sadly, there are other fees on top of that as well.
I was going to say, there's a couple more, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a hoteling contribution, non-clinical care contribution as well. Sadly, we've actually ended up with more breakdowns of fees as of these new rules rather than less, which is a little bit frustrating. But it's all for working out, and each individual has different needs and, may pay more fees than the other person going in. But it's a system ideally worked out to be more fair for each person.
Okay. And for a lot of people going into aged care, the home they usually, like these days, most people going to aged care own their home with no mortgage. That'd be fair to say, right? Still, the majority of people.
Yep.
Maybe in the future that might be different, given it's cost to buy a house now. Mm-hmm. But at the moment, most people, if they're going to aged care, they've got a paid off home. For a lot of people, that's really their main asset. They don't necessarily have a huge amount of money aside from that home. And I imagine this is a big point of stress is, do I have to sell my home? Are they going to take my home? Can I keep it? I know some people like to, sometimes that elderly person going in aged care is thinking, oh, maybe I'll be able to move back home after a year or two.
Yeah.
So what happens there? Do people, are they forced to sell their home? Can they keep it? And how does Centrelink treat that?
Yeah, so you're never forced to sell the family home, but an advisor will model a multiple of scenarios, and one of them will be, well, if the family home is sold, how would that impact, I suppose, long-term aged care costs for mum or dad? Um, it is a difficult one because to keep the family home, there's a lot of a personal connection to it, so it's not an easy transaction. "Oh, we'll just sell it," Some people can be quite matter of fact, but other people, we're talking about decades of memories and, there. So Centrelink will assess it in a number of ways. So, for example, if mum or dad vacate the family home, one of the first things they look at is if there was someone else in the family home at the time. So sometimes we run into circumstances where mum's heading into aged care, but dad's remaining at home. So in that case, the house will continue to be an exempt asset, which is really important when it comes down to assessing the ongoing cost care for mum who is heading into aged care. Then there are circumstances where mum or dad is the surviving person. They're the only one remaining. They are leaving the home, going to aged care, and then the house is going to be effectively accessible from that point on. So Centrelink does have means to go, well, is that person going to enter aged care as a homeowner effectively for assessment purposes or a homeowner? Are we going to be looking at selling the home? Are we going to be looking at purchasing a bond with that money or not? There are a number of factors at play there. Importantly, though, if there's not a protected person at the family home, Centrelink will look at assessing the home from a means-tested care fee perspective, up to a capped amount for age pension purposes. It's still an exempt asset for a period of time. But, and after that time passes, the whole thing's assessed as an asset and it can really impact ongoing entitlements for age pension purposes, especially if the house is being retained and not rented or anything like that. We're talking about aged care fees increasing because the means tested portion of it, but also at the same time, potentially not having an age pension coming through anymore. And then the gap to afford that care really starts to add up. So it is a decision that the family needs to come to pretty quickly. But once again, everyone's case is different and each should be sort of looked at individually.
Complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the family home. And so do you see, are there common mistakes that people make when when someone's entering aged care, if they're not getting advice or help? Are there any common mistakes that they come to regret or that you see?
Yeah, there was one I came across only recently, and I was really impressed with a local solicitor was sitting down with the son and the power of attorney of a client, and they were saying, "Mum's going to transfer half of her family home into my name, and this is so the home and Centrelink can't take Mum's house off her when she enters aged care."
That doesn't seem like a good idea.
No, no, but the solicitor saw this as well and said, "Hey, I see what you're trying to do, but you need to get financial advice first." The client listened, which was great, came and saw me, and we talked about the potential outcomes of what their decisions was going to do. But it all came down to just the misconception around, hey, Centrelink's going to take everything off mum, and they're going to take the house when she enters aged care. She's going to have nothing left to, and show for herself in the future, which wasn't the case. So I think there's a lot of information out there in regards to aged care, but the absolute, an amount of it is just so confusing and it's not dialed down into a really simple sort of format for people. And I think if we could get, and sort of material out there that shows people, hey, here's some of the common sort of mistakes that people can make. That's not true. Centrelink are not going to do this. Services Australia are not going to do this. Then that could actually clear up a lot of big mistakes people make. And the costs involved as well to transfer the home into one of your children's name, where we could potentially incur stamp duty right now, where that wouldn't be incurred if it passed via an estate, for example. And gifting and deprivation sort of outcomes from Centrelink, and effectively you're taking an exempt asset and then taking half of it and giving it to a child. They're effectively taking half of the value of the home and saying, well, now that's an asset assessed against me because I've given that away. So it can have really detrimental impacts by making the wrong decision before getting advice.
Yeah, spot on. That gifting thing is interesting. So there's still a big misconception what gifting is and when it applies. Like we still often get the question, can I give my child money? Will it be taxed? Well, you can give money, you can give access to whoever you want. Where it's relevant, as you point out, is Centrelink. Centrelink are the only ones that care about gifting. If you're on age pension and you try and move assets around, Centrelink are going to say, no, we're still counting that as your asset for 5 years.
Yeah, and it's to close up loopholes that, in the past, people gave away huge amounts of money and said, well, I don't have that money anymore. It's with my kids, so pay me an age pension. They're saying, well, if you've got the ability to give it away, you had the ability to live on it too. So we're going to count that against you for a period of up to 5 years, as if it was still in your pocket, dollar for dollar for that time. So it can have a real big impact.
Spot on. We did have one client where gifting made sense because it was worth waiting the 5 years, but
Yeah,
usually it's not, right? Yeah, 5
It's a
is a
case
ton of
by
weight, so then just get government pension, which is not a huge amount of money.
No. Like you said, some people it makes sense. But case by case basis.
As for a case, absolutely. And then if you're talking about property, you got, as you mentioned, stamp duty as well. So that's
There's a lot of hidden things in there that sort of can catch people out. So you've got to be careful with that. Oh, the other thing as well, using that same case, because half of mum's family home was going to be transferred into the son's name, and that wasn't his primary residence. Heaven forbid, long time down the track, mum passes away. That half of mum's home is now an investment asset for him, and he had to pay capital gains tax on any growth in that time. So it was just a raft of things that we just didn't foresee, but were able to mitigate against by giving advice before any decision was made. So, money well spent in the end, I was told.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it would have saved those clients a fortune.
Yeah, it really did.
So what steps do people take? Like if mum or dad needs to go into aged care and they're trying to figure out what to do, like what should they do? What steps should they take first?
Yeah, so go around and speak to local aged care homes, and you tour a few different facilities. Just because the most local one doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be the best one. There are also facilities that have more specialised units, and around dementia care and things like that as well. So have a look at a few different ones. Also speak to Centrelink. They have financial information service officers, physios otherwise. But they will help you out with options, but they can't tell you which option is going to have the best outcome necessarily. And then they can't provide product advice, whether there's something out there that can also provide further support for people too. So there's a number of people out there that can help. But look at seeking out your local aged care advisor. And I say that on purpose because a lot of financial advisors can give aged care advice, but a lot of people also want to specialise in their fields. So have a chat to your local advisory, see if they do provide that advice, and go through with them.
Spot on, Dan. I did my aged care accreditation a few years back. But if a client comes to me with that, I'm sending them down to Hobart because I could do it. and I could do a whole bunch of research. And the advice would probably be not bad, but unless you do it regularly, it's not ideal. It's not the best outcome necessarily.
I genuinely love helping people with that type of advice, and I love helping people come in and, and more often than not, they're in a panic um, and they're confused, but, I'm able to get them to a point that they're actually feeling relieved and no longer overwhelmed, which is great. Centrelink is a big part of aged care advice. And I love dealing with that sort of part of it too. There are no loopholes with Centrelink anymore. They've all been closed. There are hoops now, and I think if you understand that and you've got to jump through each of the hoops, I think that's part of the confusion and frustration that we can work through together.
So you don't mind dealing with Centrelink?
No, not at all. Love it.
I don't think I've ever heard that. Do you have an insider there or something?
No, I used to work there for 10 years before being an advisor.
That's right. That's okay. So you know what happens behind the
I have an
scenes.
appreciation for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Awesome. Okay, and I've got this question here, and I think I know what you're going to say, but how does a family decide between, because I've got these home care packages where you can just get help in your home. So how do they decide between doing that or moving into a residential care home?
Yeah, it's not a decision between which. It's more, and it comes down to each person's needs. So you'll see someone move straight into aged care sometimes, and that's usually because something's happened, like a fall's happened, mum's now gone into hospital, they're going to go into respite and go into aged care. So they might skip that whole home care sort of need. But more often than not, people are gradually sort of, suffering cognitive decline, if you like. And as they do that, they'll start on a level 1 home package. And as their needs increase, they'll have further ACAT assessments and their packages will go up too, until the family decides one day that it's not safe for mum or dad to remain at home because their care needs are too great for someone to, I suppose, not be there unless one of the family members wants to move in, permanently. It gets to the point that, round the clock care is needed and they move into a residential aged care facility.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. And like you've touched on it already, like you must see some pretty emotional situations. What's one story you can think of where your advice made a big difference?
Yeah, okay. I think one of the scariest things is the sheer cost when you see for the first time, this is what a bond's going to cost at the local aged care facility. This is how much the ongoing fees are going to be from a daily perspective. When that's thrown in front of you for the first time, it is quite confronting, especially when you know what mum or dad is getting from Centrelink, and it's not going to cover all that. So I sat down recently with some of my clients, and they said, "Oh, we need to get advice for mum or dad." When mum wasn't able to come in, they were their power of attorney, but they were able to bring in all the paperwork. They can show how much the RAD was going to be, or the bond at the local home, and I was able to show, if we took certain measures, we could actually get from a position of showing them day one of having a shortfall position to actually being in a cash flow positive position going forward. So it really removed the sort of financial sort of stress, which was one of the biggest stresses involved. And to sell the family home wasn't a big concern of theirs. But there are costs involved in that, and conveyancing costs, real estate agent costs. How long is it going to take for the home to sell? How are we going to pay for the bond in that time that the house is up for sale until we find the right buyer? Things like that as well. So, my clients are still ongoing clients with me, which is fantastic, but I also manage mum now from an ongoing perspective as well,
Yeah.
just for that ongoing peace of mind. So they're really happy with that. And we're able to show as well going forward that even with financial advice, you're able to put yourself into a better position going forward potentially. It's not like that in every case, of course. In some cases there will still be a shortfall going forward, but a financial advice can really show how that's manageable from a long-term perspective based on the assets we have in front of us.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, hearing that, it's clear how really good advice around this stuff really matters. Yeah, that ties into our little pro bono giveaway as well. So I think we'll wrap it up there, Dan. Thanks so much for breaking down aged care in a way that makes sense. So look, if someone came to mind while you're listening, this part is for them. We're giving away a full financial advice package pro bono for someone who genuinely needs help. So if you want to enter into that, tell us in a short message who you are nominating and why they need financial advice right now. You can use the link in the show notes or send us an email. All the details are there. As always, this chat's general information, not personal advice. If you need support for your own situation, please speak with a professional advisor. In this case, make sure they do aged care as a specialisation. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode of The Winner's Playbook. Thanks, Dan.
Cheers, Billy. Thank you.
Disclaimer. The information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances. Please head to the show notes if you wish to book in a free 15-minute call to discuss your personal